but I got to ask you about masks because I haven't picked enough scabs. Let's talk about masks because that I'm so over them. I think most Americans are so over them. And we talked with this journalist, really smart guy, did a long piece for New York Magazine, David Zweig, on how the CDC's own study of 90,000 kids in Atlanta showed that masks were not effective in preventing COVID. There was no statistically significant difference in schools that required students to wear masks compared to schools where they were optional. And indeed, they don't require them for the younger age kids in the UK, Ireland, Scandinavia, France, Netherlands, Switzerland, Italy, and there is no greater incident of school outbreaks in those countries relative to the schools in the United States. So can we finally take the masks off of our kids?
Well, look, for every article you cite that shows that there may not be an impact of masks, there's other literature that points in the opposite direction.
No. I think. Did you read David Zweig reporting in New York Magazine? He looked at every single one, not one.
He looked at every single one. I think on balance, the masks probably provide an incremental benefit, but the consequence of going into the school year without any mitigation in place, any tactics.
I didn't say no mitigation.
Or keeping kids in defined social pods, geographic pods, or implementing testing in schools. We've seen states that have taken that approach. In the South, Florida took that approach. They didn't have any mitigation in place in a lot of those school districts. And we saw the virus become epidemic in the schools. Now, it coursed its way through.
What schools did it become epidemic in? Amongst children in school spread? That's not true.
It's true. If you look at the level of infection among kids in Florida and some of the other southern states, which didn't implement a lot of mitigation early in the school year,
they got it in school.
Dense outbreaks.
There's a proof. There's a study showing they got it in school.
Well, when 27% of new infections are among kids, you're going to argue they all got it at home after the infection levels had started to decline rapidly among adults. The only category of growth in infections, if you look at the last 2 months or 6 weeks in some of these states, was among children under the age of 18. So it was school-age kids. Strong presumption is.
Did I
sequence all the children to actually? Right. Did I sequence them to trace the origin of their infection? No. You're right. I do not have.
But you're setting up a straw man. You went to right to. Oh, we shouldn't. I'm not in favor of a school doing no mitigation. Me neither. But the masks are not effective, and there aren't studies proving that they are. The CDC's own study, deal with that, 90,000 students in the Atlanta school district, prove that they do not have any effect. Why isn't that valid? Why isn't the CDC relying on its own study to allow us to unmask our children?
Yeah, my policy prescription would be that in the setting of a very contagious variant that we don't know how hard or easy it's going to be to control in a school setting, where the imperative is to keep kids in the classroom and also keep them safe. We should go into the school year adopting all the reasonable measures that we can take and peel them away as we see how successful
Masking has negative effects. Masking has negative effects on children. That's been proven as well. This is not a harmless measure, and it's not helping. So why wouldn't we be honest about the CDC's own information?
Well, that's where we're going to agree to disagree. I think that there's the balance of the evidence, I think, points to the fact that the masks, if worn properly and used properly, use high quality masks. On the margin, they're beneficial.
They're not. Kids aren't wearing N95s. You know that. And why would it be? Why would the kids in the UK and Ireland and Scandinavia and France and Netherlands and Switzerland and Italy be fine not masking, but our kids somehow are in a different situation?
Look, we have different circumstances in our schools. We have schools that are more crowded, schools that are older, have poor ventilation. There's different situations in school districts. And this is, again, where
have you been to Italy?
Districts, I haven't. Districts
you think they have more room than we do?
To try to implement the measures that they think are going to protect that schoolhouse. I would have gone in. My advice to policymakers would be to go into the school year with as many measures, reasonable measures as you can take to try to protect that environment, and withdraw them if you see that you're being successful. Look, a lot of schools aren't doing routine testing in the schools. They're not keeping kids in defined geographic pods. They're letting whole classes intermingle. And I don't want to see this become epidemic in a school setting. I've seen large outbreaks in the schools, including in my local community. And I don't think that this is a benign virus in children. I don't want to see the entire American population.
The data show that when the kids are getting it, they're getting it from teachers, not from other kids, and that the kids are not effective vectors of this virus. Do you dispute that?
Yeah, that's not true with Delta. You're talking about data that comes out of studies with the old Wuhan variant. Delta is such a contagious variant, and the kids mount very high viral loads that we do think that the kids are transferring this infection. It's different, and the CDC has been very slow to do evaluations of that. So you can't base assumptions on this variant.
They do no studies. They let Israel do it all. I mean, they've let Israel and the UK do it all.
That's a good 300 pages of my book are about the shortcomings of CDC, which we didn't talk about today. So thank you.